Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm your host, and we are going to be unpacking a topic today that, well, let's just say if you've been following the news or honestly just existing on the internet for the last 2 years, you know about this.
Hey everyone, glad to be here.
So there's this one specific nightmare scenario that has basically been living rent-free in the heads of policymakers. The big one when it comes to AI safety.
Right, the biosecurity threat.
Yeah.
The whole idea that large language models, LLMs, would essentially democratize the ability to create biological weapons.
Exactly. The classic garage scientist scenario. The fear is that, a bad actor or maybe just a really curious but reckless novice could log into a chatbot, bypass whatever safety filters are there, and just get a step-by-step recipe to cook up a pandemic.
Which, to be fair, felt like a very valid fear for a while.
Oh, absolutely. Because we kept seeing all these benchmarks where KI models were just acing biology PhD qualifying exams.
Right. If you looked at the data from, say, 2024 and early 2025, the models looked like absolute geniuses. I mean, they knew the theory, they could troubleshoot complex protocols on paper, they could synthesize massive amounts of scientific literature in seconds.
Yeah.
So the working assumption was basically, well, if they know the theory that well, they can definitely teach you the practice.
But, and this is where it gets really fascinating for you listening today, we finally have a reality check on this. We aren't just speculating about these what-ifs anymore.
No, we have actual data.
We have a massive brand new study. It's titled Measuring Mid-2025 LLM Assistance on Novice Performance in Biology. And let me tell you, the results are completely counterintuitive.
It is, without a doubt, the most significant data point we have on this topic right now, because this wasn't some computer simulation. This was a massive randomized controlled trial, an RCT.
Run by the researchers at Acticide and METR.
Exactly. And what they did was they took 153 people and put them into a physical BSL-2 laboratory for 8 weeks.
8 weeks. I mean, this wasn't just a weekend hackathon. This was a grueling, summer-long grind running from June all the way to August 2025.
Precisely. And the mission they gave these people was straightforward on paper, but incredibly difficult in practice. They asked these novices to perform a reverse genetics workflow.
Okay, which sounds incredibly technical. Let's simplify that for the audience. What were they actually trying to do in that lab?
In plain English, they asked them to synthesize a virus from scratch.
Wow.
Now, obviously, for safety reasons, they use non-pathogenic proxies, so very safe versions like AAV vectors and E. coli. But the physical steps, the equipment they used, the reagents, the actual skills required, they are identical to what you would need to create something legitimately dangerous.
So we have these 153 people. Who exactly were they? Are we talking about grad students, professional biologists who just wanted to test the AI?
No, and that is the crucial part of this study. They were novices, mostly undergraduates. In fact, 84% of them had little to no prior wet lab experience whatsoever. On a 30-point biology experience scale they used, these participants rated between 0 and 10.
So they're basically totally green.
Completely. These are very smart people, obviously, but they literally do not know how to hold a pipette. They've likely never stepped foot inside a real BSL-2 lab before.
Which makes them the perfect proxy for that bad actor in a garage we're so worried about. Someone who is smart, highly motivated, but totally unskilled physically.
Exactly. And the way they set up the conditions is just fascinating. They split these novices into 2 arms. First, you had the internet arm. They got access to your standard digital toolkit, Google, Wikipedia, YouTube, and read-only forums like Reddit or Stack Exchange.
But absolutely no AI.
Right. No AI for the control group.
And the other half?
The other half was the LLM arm. They got everything the internet arm had, plus they got access to the absolute frontier models available in mid-2025.
So we're talking the heavy hitters.
The smartest models on the planet. OpenAI's GPT-5 and O3, Anthropic's Claude Opus 4, Google's Gemini 2.5.
And just to add a little spice to this, the researchers didn't make it easy on them, did they?
Not at all. They were working entirely alone, no teaching assistants hovering around, no human help of any kind.
A total sink-or-swim environment.
Yeah, they walked into this lab and just had to figure out the equipment from scratch. The researchers even threw in decoy items into the inventory list.
Oh, that is just mean.
It is. Stuff that looked like it might be the right chemical or tool, but would completely ruin the experiment if they actually used it.
I mean, I guess that is the real world, right? If you are trying to build a virus in a basement, Nobody is putting a bright yellow sticky note on the bottle saying, use this one for you.
Exactly. It was a test of their ability to discriminate information as much as it was about execution. So this brings us to the million-dollar question. Did the group with these super intelligent AI assistants just crush the Google group? Did they turn into super scientists?
I mean, you'd think so. Having GPT-5 in your ear is essentially like having an Ivy League professor in your pocket.
You really would think so. But on the primary goal, which was completing the core reverse genetic sequence, the AI group essentially tied with the control group.
A tie.
Statistically, yes. And actually, if you just look at the raw numbers, the AI group had a slightly lower success rate.
Wait, lower? You give someone the smartest AI in human history, and they perform worse than the guy just frantically Googling things.
The raw numbers were a 5.2% success rate for the AI group versus a 6.6% success rate for the internet group.
That is just wild. That completely flips the entire narrative we've been hearing. Though, I mean, 5% and 6%, those are both incredibly low numbers to begin with.
It really just shows how ridiculously hard biology is. But the fact that there was no significant difference, the p-value is 0.759 for the stats nerds listening, that tells us that access to frontier AI did not magically turn these novices into experts.
So today, we really want to dive deep into why. Why didn't the AI help? Where did it fail so spectacularly? And because it's not all doom and gloom, where did it actually work? Because there was one specific area where the AI provided a massive boost.
Yeah, it becomes this really fascinating story of what we call tacit knowledge versus explicit knowledge.
Right. But before we get to the philosophy of all that, let's walk through the actual gauntlet these poor students had to run. It wasn't just a simple prompt like make a virus. It was a rigorous series of 5 tasks.
Correct. It started with a pre-task, which was just micropipetting.
The basically don't shake your hand test.
Essentially, yes. Proving you can move tiny, tiny amounts of liquid from point A to point B accurately without contaminating anything. Then came task 2, which was cell culture. This is keeping human kidney cells alive in a petri dish.
Which, from what I understand, is like having a very expensive, extremely fragile pet.
It's a biological Tamagotchi. If you look at them wrong, they die. Then you have task 3, molecular cloning. This is where you actually assemble the DNA pieces. Then task 4, virus production, where you're making the actual AAV. And finally, task 5, RNA quantification, which is just measuring what you actually made to prove you did it.
Okay, so that incredibly low success rate, that 5%, that was for completing the core sequence, which was tasks 2, 3, and 4.
Correct.
So let's talk about this tacit knowledge gap. Why did they fail so badly with the AI?
Think about it like this. All those benchmarks we talked about earlier, they measure knowing. The lab measures doing.
Right.
You can read a perfectly written description of how to ride a bicycle. An AI can explain the physics of balance, gyroscopic force, pedal torque flawlessly. But if you have never physically sat on a bike and I just shove you down a hill, you're going to fall over.
Because your body doesn't actually know what any of those words mean?
Exactly. The study authors refer to this as somatic tacit knowledge. It's muscle memory. It's subtle visual checks. It's the physical feel of the work. An AI can tell you to aspirate the supernatant without disturbing the pellet, but it cannot teach your hand how steady it needs to be, or the exact angle you need to hold the tube so you don't accidentally suck up the cells you just spent 2 entire weeks growing.
It's the difference between reading a recipe and being a chef. The recipe says saute until golden brown, but knowing exactly what golden brown looks like and smells like, that's the hard part.
And text, even brilliant text generated by an advanced AI, is just a really poor medium for transferring that kind of physical, real-world skill.
Okay, so the AI couldn't give them the literal hands of a biologist?
Yeah.
But you mentioned a bright spot earlier, a place where the AI actually did help a lot.
Yes, task 2, the cell culture task, the Tamagotchi phase.
What happened there?
In that specific task, the AI group actually outperformed the internet group. Just looking at the raw numerical trends, the success rate was 68.8% for the AI arm versus 55.3% for the internet arm. But the real headline there wasn't just the success rate, it was the speed.
How much faster were they?
The AI group succeeded approximately 6 days faster than the internet group.
6 days. In an 8-week study, that is a huge deal. That's almost a whole extra week of time they got back.
Yeah.
Why did the AI win so decisively there?
We think it's because cell culture is highly procedural. It is basically a recipe. Thaw the cells at 37 degrees, add 10 milliliters of media, spin it at this specific speed, incubate. And LLMs are absolutely fantastic at structuring messy, sprawling information into really clear, step-by-step checklists.
Ah, so it acted like a really good project manager for them.
Exactly. It significantly lowered the activation energy required to just get started. Imagine the internet group for a second. They're searching Google, right? They're finding 3 different academic forums with 3 entirely different opinions on the best way to thaw these cells. They're scrubbing through a 20-minute YouTube video just to find one specific instruction.
So they get paralyzed by the information overload.
Total analysis paralysis.
Huh.
Meanwhile, the AI group just asks GPT-5, hey, how do I thaw these specific cells? And it instantly spits out step 1, step 2, step 3. They get moving immediately.
So the AI is great at cutting through the noise and getting you moving.
And the data totally backs that up.
Sure.
When the researchers modeled the overall progress, participants in the AI arm were significantly more likely to reach intermediate steps across all the tasks. The odds ratios showed an 81 to 96% probability of a positive effect on progress.
Meaning they got further faster, they just didn't necessarily finish the whole thing.
Right. They hit the wall eventually, but they got to a wall much faster than the Google group.
And that wall, it seems, was task 3, molecular cloning. Because from what I read in the study, this is where the wheels completely fell off the wagon for the AI group.
Task 3 was an absolute disaster zone for them. Molecular cloning is very different from cell culture. It's not just following a simple recipe. It's a complex logic puzzle that involves highly precise factual data. You have to design intricate DNA sequences, you have to select specific enzymes that only cut at very specific points, and you have to order a bunch of reagents that are actually compatible with each other.
And LLMs are famous for, let's be kind and say, creative improvisation with facts.
Hallucinations, yes. The study found that this was the major roadblock. Participants would ask the AI to design a DNA sequence or recommend a specific cloning kit, and the AI would very confidently generate a sequence.
Let me guess. The sequence was wrong.
Often, yes. Totally wrong. Or it would recommend chemical reagents that simply didn't exist in the real world. Or even worse, it would recommend reagents that did exist, but were the completely wrong version for this specific experiment.
Oh, wow. So the AI is sitting there confidently telling you, go order the Turbo Cloner 3000 and use this exact genetic sequence, and the sequence is just gibberish.
Or it's subtly wrong, which honestly is way worse in biology. Just one wrong base pair and your virus doesn't work at all.
And this leads directly to what the researchers coined as speed to failure.
Yes. Because the AI gave them an answer instantly, the AI participants submitted their physical material requests significantly faster than the internet group. They felt great about it. They thought they were nailing the task, but they weren't any more accurate.
So they basically sprinted face first into a brick wall.
Exactly. Meanwhile, what is the internet group doing? They're forced to go straight to the manufacturer's website. They have to painstakingly look up the spec sheet. They have to read the boring 50-page PDF manual.
And spec sheets don't hallucinate.
Exactly. If the catalog number on the official website says it works for this specific DNA, it works. So the internet group was slower, much slower, but they were working with grounded truth. The AI group was working with a probabilistic guess.
That is such a critical distinction for you to keep in mind. Because in a purely digital world like coding software, if you get a bad snippet from an AI, you run it, you get an instant error message, and you fix it in 10 seconds. The feedback loop is instant.
But in biology, the feedback loop is incredibly brutal. If you order the wrong DNA sequence, you wait 3 days just for shipping. Then you mix it, you incubate it overnight, you run a gel to test it, and only then 4 or 5 entire days later do you realize nothing happened.
You've lost almost a whole week of your summer because the chatbot hallucinated a single base pair.
Yep. And the AI doesn't know you failed. It just politely waits for your next prompt. It doesn't have a compiler to automatically check its own work.
Man. Okay, so this brings us to the user perception part of the study, which honestly I found psychologically fascinating. They surveyed these students regularly throughout the summer.
Ah, yes, the grass is greener effect.
Tell me about that.
So, the internet users, the ones stuck with just Google and Reddit, they became increasingly convinced over the 8 weeks that if only I had AI, this would be so much easier. Their belief in AI's helpfulness steadily went up as the study dragged on.
Total FOMO, fear of missing out. They thought the other group had this magic superpower.
Huge FOMO. But the AI users, the people actually using GPT-5 and Claude Opus every single day in the lab, their belief that AI is helping me actually decreased over time.
They just got disillusioned.
Fully disillusioned. They quickly realized the tool wasn't a magic wand. They started getting really frustrated with the hallucinations, the endless circular conversations, the complete lack of visual context.
That is hilarious. The people without it thought it was a god, and the people with it realized it was just a flawed, slightly annoying assistant.
And here is the kicker that I absolutely love. When asked what the most helpful resource was overall, both groups, the internet arm and the AI arm, rated one specific thing higher than anything else.
Okay, let me guess. It wasn't a textbook.
YouTube.
Of course it was.
Both groups rated YouTube significantly higher than any individual LLM or search engine.
It makes total sense, though, doesn't it? Like, if I need to see if my cells look healthy under a microscope, trying to describe that in text to a chatbot is a total nightmare. Are they round? Are they kind of spiky? Are they floating around? Just show me a 10-second video of a healthy cell.
Exactly. For physical tasks, a video is worth quite literally 1,000,000 tokens. The study actually noted that some of the AI users were serious power users churning through like 1.4 million tokens of text.
That is an insane amount of chatting.
It really is. But here's the thing. Using the AI more did not correlate with higher success rates.
That is a damning stat. Using it more didn't actually make you any better at the task. It just meant you were spinning your wheels.
It strongly suggests that there's a hard ceiling to what text-based assistants can actually do for a deeply physical process. You can chat with an AI all day long, but unless you physically put the pipette in the tube correctly, you're going to fail.
Okay, so let's zoom out a bit. What does this mean for the big picture? We started this deep dive talking about the fear of the bioweapon in the garage.
Well, this study serves as a massive reality check for the industry. It exposes this huge conflict between benchmarks and reality. Previous benchmarks showed LLMs outperforming world-class experts on quizzes. But this study conclusively proves that knowing is definitely not doing.
Right, it's the difference between passing your written driving test and then trying to parallel park a massive truck on a steep hill.
Exactly. And the researchers did some post-hoc Bayesian analysis, some pretty fancy stats to try and estimate the actual uplift. Like, how much does AI actually help a novice?
And what's the final number?
They estimate it provides a modest boost, maybe a 1.4 times improvement on a typical task.
Just 1.4x. I mean, that's an accelerator, sure. But it is definitely not a 10x or 100x superpower.
Right. And they found the upper bound is likely less than 2.6x. So in terms of biosecurity, this is actually somewhat reassuring news, at least for right now. The fear that a total novice can easily print a bioweapon in their garage using GPT-5 is likely overstated, simply because the physical barriers, that somatic tacit knowledge we talked about, are still way too high.
So the sheer messiness of the real world is basically what saves us.
It acts as a moat. Biology is inherently messy, it's unpredictable, and it requires physical finesse. The AI just cannot bridge that gap yet.
Yet. That is the key word, isn't it?
It really is.
Because even though they failed the final task, those AI users did progress further. They overcame those early hurdles, the activation energy, much better than the Google group. They just hit the wall of physical skill later down the line.
And that's a critically important nuance to take away from this. If the AI helps you get through all the boring administrative stuff, planning the protocol, calculating the chemical mixtures you get to the dangerous part much faster, you might fail there today, but you're standing right at the door.
So if we look at this entire study measuring mid-2025 LLM assistants, the headline really is, AI did not turn novices into experts. It didn't significantly increase the success rate of making a virus.
Correct. It definitely helped with procedural speed and things like cell culture, but it completely failed on precise factual retrieval and cloning. It was a helpful assistant, but a deeply flawed one.
And the users themselves knew it. They vastly preferred YouTube.
Which tells us that multimodal learning video, audio, visual is still king when it comes to physical tasks. Text-based LLMs are fighting with one hand tied behind their back in the wet lab.
So what does this all mean for you listening at home? If you're sitting there thinking, great, I don't need to worry about AI-generated bioweapons anytime soon. Are you right to think that?
You're definitely right to take a breath. The immediate catastrophic risk of anyone, anywhere, instantly creating a biological threat is lower than the initial hype suggested. The barrier to entry for real-world biology is still surprisingly high. It is just hard work.
But technology doesn't stand still. This study used mid-2025 models. We are already looking at what comes next.
And that actually raises the provocative thought I want to leave everyone with today.
Go for it.
This study clearly showed that the major bottleneck right now is the physical execution. The hands. The AI has the brain mostly anyway, but it completely lacks the hands. But what happens when the physical robotics catch up to the digital intelligence?
Oh, you're talking about cloud labs.
Exactly. We are already seeing the rapid rise of remote laboratories where you just send digital code over the internet, and a highly precise robot arm in a sterile facility executes all the pipetting for you.
And the robot doesn't have shaky hands.
The robot doesn't need to watch a YouTube video to know exactly how to hold the tube. It doesn't get tired, it doesn't sneeze and contaminate the sample. It just flawlessly executes the instructions.
So right now we are safe, largely because biology is physically difficult for human beings. But if we outsource the physical part entirely to machines controlled by the AI,
Then that tacit knowledge gap simply vanishes. You bypass the messy human biology element entirely.
and that modest 1.4x boost might suddenly become that 100x boost we were all terrified of.
Exactly. We aren't safe because the knowledge is hidden anymore. We're safe because the doing is hard. If the doing becomes easy,
And the mode is gone.
then the entire landscape changes overnight.
Well, on that slightly terrifying note, this has been a deep dive into the reality of AI in the biolab, a really fascinating story of failure, frustration, and the enduring power of a good YouTube tutorial.
Always check your sources and maybe learn to pipette by hand while you still can.
Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.